Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the scrumptious Audi Academy. You join us the first of our 2 GT2 rounds in this championship. Welcome to the Mecca of Turn 1 incidents in the Temple of Speed. Welcome to the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. It's one of the oldest and fastest circuits in the world. It's 3.6 miles and 11 corners of raw, naked speed. I'm Jack Mays, joined by a really cool co-commentator, Joseph Black. And always, we have the glorious Ash Baby keeping us company as the broadcaster for this series. Joseph, this is the first time you and I are sharing a box together. I'm glad to have you here. How are you doing on this glorious Italian afternoon?
Very good, very excited to be back. I mean, I believe it was Mr. Dalton who I came together with for the last couple of series I did a very, very long time ago now, back in around March, April time, which shows how time flies, because it feels like only yesterday I was here on Mondays. But yeah, very, very good to be back, and very excited as well to see these drivers and see these cars heading around Monza. I've heard a lot about these GT2s in preparation for the race, so yeah, happy to get started.
Well, that makes one of us, because I know virtually nothing about these cars. I did just a little bit of research in preparation, but I've never actually seen them driven. I've never driven them myself, but I'm interested to see the unique driving style coming from a GT4, which is, well, it's a little bit similar. It's lower downforce, greater emphasis on mechanical grip, but a lot more top speed with these cars. So Monza is a perfect place to showcase the type of driving style, as we see that little bit of decreased downforce from a GT3 car as Andy Boardman just runs wide of the exit of Scari. I think we're going to be seeing that all day today, as we're already hot in qualifying. I think it's going to be hopefully another tight qualifying. We've been treated to, I think in round 1 it was about half a second between first and fifth. I think round 2 it was around the same, but I think up to P7. So hopefully we got a tight qualifying. But to begin us off, Nico Kumpu, who did put the charge on Andy Boardman last week, is in P1 at the moment. That will all get shuffled around as these cars get greater amounts of temperature into the wheels and greater confidence in what these things can do. These cars seem to be absolutely comfortable around here. I was expecting a little bit more undulation, but they seem a much stiffer setup from the GT3 cars we saw bouncing around in the last 2 rounds. But Joseph, any early predictions? I know you're not super familiar with this series so far, but any early predictions on who our pole sitter might be for today?
Well, so far it's been an unsurprising session. I mean, the last time I was here, I remember Nico Kumpu and Andy Boardman actually fighting out for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship. So, I mean, it's unsurprising to see them both at the top of the field as well. Lots of names that could throw themselves into the mixer as well. Of course, Aaron Jackson, 3rd spot at the moment, and he's known for being very, very quick. Lily Armstrong, Les Stevenson, Joe Dorber, all names I recognise, as well as, Will Stevenson, I believe, who won one of the championships that I took you through with, of course, John back in the day. But yeah, I mean, there's 18 cars here, so pretty much any of them could find themselves to the top of the field. And it's not split by much at the moment. 7/10 split. The top 7 even are split by 1 second. And that's in the early stages of the qualifying. When they find out those extra tenths towards the end of the session, it might get a bit tighter. Stevenson and Dorber haven't set time for watching on board with the other Stevenson, Les, who's had a couple of moments where he went off of the circuit on this lap. So I don't think this is going to be much of an improvement on the lap time he's got so far of a 48. And you can see the onboard clock ticking down as he's going to head up to the line. It may well actually be an improvement here from Les Stevenson. Is it going to be? It's not quite. It's a 10.5 off and some change. So Les Stevenson remains in 8th and remains outside that 1 second window.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that maybe those times will get a little bit closer. Maybe we'll see a second between the top 10. This series has delivered some excellent qualifying sessions as Shipston dives all the way up to P3, another quick driver. It's interesting to see it's remarkably similar in who's the quick one so far, coming from the GT4 to the GT2 machinery. I mean, if these drivers are a lot of these drivers are quick in just about everything they get in, but hopefully we'll see a little bit more shuffling, maybe some surprise surprises either in qualifying or hopefully some surprises in the race. This is a 40 minutes sprint race, down from the usual hour of these Monday championships, and those 40 minutes have gone by absurdly fast in the last 2 rounds. I kind of wish that these races were 2 hours long with the amount of action that we've been getting. Definitely, last week at Zandvoort was exceptional. Lots of good moments lots of brave moments of overtaking, lots of little bit of door banging here and there. I'm sure that when these races are pushing to the absolute limits, they're probably gonna touch each other. The real challenge, as everyone is aware, is lap 1, turn 1. Hopefully everybody gets clean. I've yet to see a big bit of calamity at the 3 races I've commentated on so far around Monza. Not trying to, I'm gonna knock on wood real fast, knock on my desk there, and hopefully we'll have another clean run through turn 1 today, as Kevin Boss, who's giving a little bit of a toe to, I'm not 100% sure who that was, but improves just a little bit, but not enough for another position. He's gonna go ahead, dive into the pits, maybe throw a little bit more fuel in the car, and hopefully get back out there. As Hugo Duby getting ready to dive into Parabolica. These cars do look remarkably planted through that corner. I mean, it is a fast sweeper. I'm not 100% sure what these cars are entering that corner at, but it is a late break and a deep commitment as Hugo Duby crosses the line, a 148.3. Another bit of improvement, but not enough for that greater space. But yeah, it's super. It's a imagine in these cars a lot of commitment in some of these corners. I can imagine a Ascari and the Parabolica especially. It's all about trusting the car, and with what I can only describe as about the lowest downforce setup you will ever have in any circuit on ACC. It is trusting the tires, keeping them in that magical 27 psi range, and hoping for grip, honestly, as Pimlot's going to go through the Lesmos and keep it on the long run down towards Ascari. I think Ascari might be a bit of I'm hoping for a bit of an action corner of the race. It seems to bring out some epic moves and some epic dives in any car class. But I think we're already seeing the times dropping just a little bit more. Will Stevenson has actually jumped up to the top while I was not looking. I think he was going well in the practice session, Joseph. So I think, as you said, a former champion, he might be looking to go good here today.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I remembered just briefly based on a few of the camera angles, I thought I've seen this before. So I had a look back. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo round 1 was in fact here at Monza, and this was the exact front row that we had there. Will Stevenson leading Nico Kumpu up to the line, and if these lap times are a bit better, that's because they were in GT3s rather than GT2s, as we're in here today, and we're watching Neil Pimlott drive around in one. He's in 9th place at the moment. The top 8 now are the drivers within 1 second of that pole time, and you'll be seeing, I think it's an interesting point to bring up the downforce that these drivers will be getting and how much grip they'll be getting on the exit. Every single one of these drivers is going to be trying to run wide out of every single corner, and the reason for that is because they're just trying to maximize the grip they can get and maximize the speed they can get out of the corners. They know that they're going to be slow heading in. They know that they're likely going to be slow out of it, and it's just about trying to cover yourself but don't go too wide as Aaron Jackson runs into the gravel at the end of Ascari, and he's going to come around the final couple of corners, most likely with a lap time that's not going to be an improvement. It's not going to be climbing anywhere near close to Will Stevenson or Nico Kumpu, who are split by less than a tenth of a second. Then it's 3/10 back to Andy Boardman, then another 3/10 back exactly to Tom Shipston. So big gaps at the top of the field at the moment, and there's 2 minutes left in this qualifying session. All these drivers are preparing for their final runs. I'm sure that a lot of them are now on their out laps, and then they'll be setting their final laps of the session. We'll see where everybody is going to stack up heading into race day. 18 cars, 17 with lap times so far. Joe Dorber the only one without, but yeah, I think we're in for a very, very good race, a very dramatic race. And as the clock ticks down to less than a lap now, this is their final opportunity.
A final opportunity indeed. I actually was looking over at that board and I saw Andy Boardman wasn't on circuit. Fortunately, he is getting out. Seems like he's going to do one quick aggressive prep out lap and then hit the circuit as fast as he can. As I say that, he's back in the box. So I think that's going to be it for Andy Boardman's qualifying, which that's I believe, our current front runner in this championship. So we'll see what he can do from P3 if that stays. Obviously, Shipston, Roscam, Jackson can depose him. They're the next closest, but Linus Johnson in P7. Also in the box, I believe we're gonna have another Dauber classic of starting from the back of the grid. He seems to enjoy doing that in these spec series. I know in the Sylvia series, I would think 3 to 4 out of the 6 rounds, we saw him out in the back just fighting up, giving us a show from the bottom spot. But it is good to see. We had I believe 21 cars last week. We're seeing 18 here. I was afraid that people were going to be scared by the idea of the GT2 cars. In our interviews post race, just about every driver was talking about how unfamiliar they are and were in this car. But it seems like everybody who's out here now has done the prep they needed to do and figured out how they needed to set up this car for Monza today. You see in the YouTube chat that the Rebound Racing folks are running 0 wing and 0 TC, and it seems to be working for them reasonably well. But that's a brave setup. I mean, I certainly don't have the skill to run just about any car with TC off, but in these rear-engined Audis, they got a big wing on the back that's not providing as much downforce as you would expect, but it seems to do just enough to get reasonable corner exits. Richard Meerman crossing the line, not an improvement, but that is a very, very close gap to Marco Fasciuto, as Kevin Boss is winding his car, hitting the brakes as late as possible for the final time in this qualifying session, rounding the Parabolica using all the circuit as he can, actually narrowing his line just a bit, but going to shorten that run to the line. Kevin Boss jumps up several positions. He's P9 now with a 147.6. Shipston next across the line decides to not and dives into the pits. That does it for Tom Shipston. And Nico Kumpu is going to be our last to cross the line. He managed to start his lap at the very end of this session. I'm looking at the sector times on the tool here. He's actually directly on for an identical lap time as last, but we'll see. As coming out of a scar, he gets a big wiggle and just runs wide. Doesn't have the grip to take down Will Stevenson, who is our current pole sitter. But Stevenson clearly likes Monza, clearly likes the GT2 cars, as the first race of the season that he's properly had time to qualify, goes and sticks the car on pole. Nico Kumbu in P2. Boardman in third, didn't do as many laps as a lot of other drivers, but we know he's quick, super, super quick in race trim. Thibaut Roscam in P4, Tom Shipston P5, Aaron Jackson P6, Linus Johnson P7, Lily Armstrong, the controller freak, I shouldn't say freak, the controller wizard, after all, is in P8. Kevin Boss in P9. Neil Pimlott rounds out the top 10. Les Stevenson in 11th. Maybe we might miss out on the Stevenson on Stevenson fight that we've been given so generously the past couple of rounds. But who knows? Maybe Les can climb up. Maybe will make a mistake, drop back a couple of positions. But we'll see that. Mike Redford, P12. Hugo Duby, P13. Cambridge Lamar, P14. Marion Sathsara, P15. Marco Fasciuto, P17. Richard Meerman in P17. And Joe Dauber starting from the back of the grid with no qualifying it done. And we're going to run through the standings as they are after the GT4 rounds. Andy Boardman is leading the championship by a narrow margin. Nico Kumpu in P2, Dauber P3, Thibaut Roscam in P4, Raphael Huel, who won the initial race in round 1, and we thought we were going to see a bit more of him here, but perhaps not, missing another round. So championship hopes maybe going down the drain just a bit. Les Stevenson and tied with Will Stevenson in P6 and 7. I think Will has it all to do to jump up and separate that grid as starting on pole. Neil Pimlott is in P8. Tom Shipston is in P9, and John Dalton is in P10. He went very well in round 2. I think that was a one-off sign up, but it was a great race that he had with Lily Armstrong, who's in P11. Hugo Duby is in 12th. Hubert Pastuska is in P13. Kevin Moss, P14. Mike Redford, P15. Aaron Jackson in 16th with Weaver. In 17th, Richard Meerman, P18. Matt Malcolm, P19. And Linus Johnson is in P20. And we have a couple more cars who see if we had a full grid, 25 cars, 26 cars, if everybody showed up, that would be wonderful of everybody that's been here so far. But Julian Kurz in 21st, Marco Fasciuto in 22nd, Cambridge Lamar is in slot 23, Syrian Clark 24th, Miriam Satsara 25th, and Gerson Herrera, who I don't believe we've actually seen in a round, but does have a point amount next to their name. And the gentleman in P27 we have not yet seen. So hopefully we get, I don't know, round 4, maybe round 5. Maybe a lot of these drivers are waiting for the GT3 rounds to all show up. That would be great to have a big fat 27 car grid for one of these races. But Joseph, how are you feeling going into this race? Any turn 1 predictions?
Well, I think turn 1's going to be the crucial part of this one, and I think that's why the likes of Will Stevenson and Nico Kumpu are going to be happy about starting first and second. I do think, though, that starting second place is absolutely vital here, because you get the outside line into the first corner, and then you can set yourself up well. That is, if anybody doesn't miss their zone, their braking zone. So I don't hate the fact that Joe Dorber is going to be starting from the back. I don't think he'll hate it either, and he'll be alongside Richard Meerman at the very back as we get an opportunity to have a look at some of the liveries that the drivers have prepared. And I'm very excited to see one very, very shortly. I think we may have already gone past Mr. Jackson and his interesting European-themed livery. And well, there we go, there it is, and that is going to be. Well, that's probably my favourite livery of the day, but I mean, there's a number of different liveries. They get to express themselves however they feel they would like, however they would desire, and of course, a lot of them with their own separate personalities. Different cars are being demonstrated. That's a beautiful little combination of pink and red there, just to round out the top 7, and then to round out the top 10. These are the few. I remember I say back in the day, it was back a few months ago, we had, I don't remember his name, but he had a beautiful livery with the eyes on, which struck fear into everybody who ran ahead of him. Looking at the rest of the grid now, that's surely a German-inspired car from Neil Pimlott or something along those lines. And then, yeah, I mean, we're just running down, and the liveries are getting very, very attractive. I do like the way that they all identify themselves as this. Very nice one. Very good sponsors as well. We'll be able to run through maybe some of them, and those are some of the championships picked up right there by Mike Redford, running in the number 95. Used to be inspired by Lightning McQueen's. Not sure if it still is, because it's not red anymore. He's matured from that point onwards, but maybe he's sold out, and maybe he's just, you know, he's allowed the sponsor money to get to his head. And then the last car on the field is going to be the gold and black Joe Dorber 777. And that ticks us down perfectly to the session start. And that ticks us down to the formation lap here at Monza, at the Autodromo Internazionale de Monza. And Will Stevenson sets off nice and early. Everybody else will follow him through. And it's all about the next 40 minutes as to who's going to come out on top. We will, of course, see the championship very, very tight at the very top, and the two protagonists, you would imagine, at this point in the season, are second and third on this grid, with the number 108 at the very peak of this field. But everybody gets away well and is setting themselves up for the 40-minute chase around Monza, the temple of speed. And all of these drivers are going to be, well, managing their speed into the first corner, but other than that, it's going to be pretty much flat-out racing. We heard from the Rebound Racing cars that there is going to be absolutely no wing on them, or at least as little as they can possibly get it. The angle is going to be such that the straight line speed is going to be significantly benefited. And well, we'll see how they stack up in comparison to everybody else. Lamar Kembritz saying good luck, everybody, in the YouTube chat, and of course you can become supporters on YouTube. And well, we've got a number of places that you can support RCI. Of course, we're attacking the socials at the moment, including well, Instagram, including but not exclusive to Instagram, where I believe we're our most active, and I'm trying to encourage Mr. Kerrigan, our socials man, to take us to take us to TikTok and to make the return there. You can see in the bottom left corner as well. Our well, Callum spelt wrong exactly. Callum with a K. But I mean, looking in the bottom corner of your screens as well, you can see all of our partners running through IMB Racewear on right now, and well, we're a Motorsports UK recommended partner. It's almost like I remember this all being read out by Mr. Dalton just a few short months ago, but we are a Motorsport UK recommended partner, which is a big honour. Well, just it's a testament to the community. RSS Ready Set Sim is another one of our big partners here at RCI. Make sure to well, build yourself a sim, even if you're not going to get it. Just build yourself your dream sim, see what you're going to be able to build up to, and maybe you'll be able to build up to a Moza racing wheel or something in their product range. Of course, Moza, a rising star in the sim racing wheels, a newer face, but I mean they're rising to prominence very quickly, and you can use some of that equipment to maybe race on a game that you can get on Green Man Gaming, or there's so many other gaming titles available at Green Man Gaming, and then Coach Dave Delta, where you can get your best setups, advice, all these sorts of things to maybe jump yourself up the grid. Maybe a number of these drivers have been using Coach Dave Delta in preparation for the first GT2 round of the season, which is ready to get underway very shortly. Will Stevenson is going to lead us to it. Nico Kumpu will be in second place and chasing the number 108 Audi. Down to the first corner, of course, everybody's racing in Audis here in the Audi Academy Championship, and there's plenty of championships you can get yourselves involved in, whether it's the Audi Academy on Monday. We've got the RSS Endurance Series that's just come to a close just a couple of short weeks ago. The Track Racer Alpine Sim Racing Series is also potentially the most exciting project I've ever seen, affiliated with the Racing Club International. And of course we have our Wednesday and Friday series, and you'll be hearing both myself and Jack over the Friday series as well, but we're ready to get underway. Around Parabolica the drivers go, and Will Stevenson in the yellow and black 108 will be taking us to Green Flag Racing. Nico Kumpu will be alongside him, and Andy Boardman will be looking to challenge into that first corner. Is Stevenson going to be able to get the jump? It's all going to be down to this 40 minutes, and the first corner might be the most crucial of the lot. They run down to that first line, and they're going to run down to the first chicane, and it's right about now when we get underway. And Will Stevenson takes us to Green Flag Racing here in Italy. Stevenson is going to get to the lead, and he's going to get a bit of a launch on Kumpu into the first corner. Boardman might be about to pull alongside, but he wisely backs out of it. Kumpu remains on the outside. Is he going to be braking later? Yes, he is. Is he going to get the turn in? Not quite. Will Stevenson, much better traction in and out of the corner, and the number 108 stays ahead. Have we had any incidents through that first chicane? It doesn't look like we have. Everybody's headed through cleanly, and Stevenson heads through and leads, but I believe there may have been a problem at the back, and well, we're going to get a race replay here of exactly what happened. Lily Armstrong in the 88 right in the mid-pack. What has happened then? It's it might just be a little tap. The 46 running over the curb, a little bit of a love tap. Not too bad. I think there's only going to be minor damage, if any at all, for Les Stevenson. But yeah, a little bit of a problem in the early skirmish, but everybody fairly cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see a just enough reservation from these drivers to see a little bit of contact in the back between Redford, one car diving through. But I noticed immediately a big mover in the beginning of the race, Kevin Boss. I think I saw him on the inside of turn one, get up through past Lily Armstrong, and also has made his way past Linus Johnson. But a good, always great fight in the mid-pack. This series has been delivering that for us always. But Will Stevenson already off to a bit of a lightning start. Half a second between him and Nico Kumpu, and Boardman is another half second adrift. But Nothing crazy so far, nothing too psychotic from any of these drivers. A very reserved turn one. I think a lot of these drivers, these are some true professionals, and they know, unlike many others, that a race is in fact not won in turn one. You know, some people have different opinions on that. I'm of the mind that you can absolutely win a race in turn one, and often catch myself out doing that. But we see Lily Armstrong being chased by Neil Pimlott. We'll see he steps out just a little bit. They break just equally. You see Kevin Boss ahead, taking it nice and cautious, but maybe losing a bit of time mid-corner. Lily Armstrong getting on those pedals nice and early. And when I say pedals, I obviously mean getting on those triggers, because Lily Armstrong, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a controller driver. As you can see on the steering wheel, we'll see in this chicane how the wheel moves left and right at a speed not quite a speed that you would be able to replicate on a sim without breaking your wrists immediately. But obviously Armstrong losing a bit of position in the beginning of that race. But a quick driver, no doubt. I'm sure the fight will be taken to Linus Johnson and Kevin Moss ahead almost immediately. We come out of Lesmo 2, getting onto that long back straight towards Ascari. Joe Dauber already getting feisty in the backpack. We knew he was going to get to it nice and quickly. Already made up 3 positions just about. He's towing, I think, Richard Meerman, that is, just past. But nope, Meerman dives back in behind Redford. All cars going through Ascari. Dauber getting the best of the bunch. Cuts that inner curb. That might actually be a bit of a track limit violation. But leaving those 3 cars in the back truly in the dust. Dauber has a long way to go to get up towards the front of the field, but is wasting absolutely no time, as we see Marion Sathsara and Kembrins Lamar getting too wide briefly in the Parabolica. Marion Sathsara seemed to go sort of a little bit of a switcheroo there, the old switcheroo, as I love to call it, and towing Mr. Dauber right up by Hugo Doobie there. Sorry, I said Hugo Doobie earlier. Or Kembrins Lamar earlier. I meant Hugo Doobie. Marion Sathsara going well. Already Dauber seeing the lack of pace in relevance to himself on Marion Sathsara's car. Already getting a little bit racy through turn 1. Curva Grande. No moves going to be made here, but the toe, unlike in those GT4 cars, seems quite a bit stronger. Dauber already stepping out briefly as they enter the second chicane. Nothing doing there. Maybe got a little bit of a better exit, surely, but Hugo Doobie also joining this 3-way fight through the Lesmos. Moves are tough to be made here. We'll see if Joe Dauber tries to go, but thinks better of it. You got to be really, truly alongside to make a move stick into Lesmo 2. But is going to use that toe, that slipstream, running back down towards Ascari. We'll see if Marion does not decide to go defensive. I think thinks better of it, knows that Dauber has the pace, gives up the position, does one, thinks about actually getting closer to Kembrins Lamar as well. He does do on the exit, and we will see as we're going down towards the Parabolica what he has to do.
Yeah, we'll see Joe Dauber now looking for that outside line into the Parabolica, but it's not going to be quite enough alongside, as that's going to be a send in the background and a move made further up the field. And Joe Dauber, can he get the exit? Actually, he can, and he's going to pull alongside. He currently sits in 11th spot on the timing boards, but is he going to be able to hold on to it running down towards that first corner? It's going to be just on the outside for Lamar, who's going to be trying to vie anywhere alongside, and it might be the first corner where he's going to send it. Yes, he is. And is he going to be able to get through? Is he going to outbrake himself? It's a very, very clean, a clean attempt at a move at least. But Joe Dauber is going to stay ahead. 11th place remains in the hands of the number 777, and well, he's made up a number of positions off the start. Aaron Jackson has come into the pit lane, has not returned, and I'm not sure whether that's going to be the end of his race. Unfortunate if it is, because of course he was showing pace early on. As we'll get a replay here of Aaron Jackson and what exactly happened to the number 99 just on the inside line. Bit of a tap, and well, it's not too bad there, I think, because later on nothing doing. So I think Aaron Jackson just simply in for a couple of fixes and he'll be back out again. Of course, the pit window is open, so it may well be an undercut that he's decided to take.
I will say I'm very surprised that we haven't already seen a couple of people in the pits early. Mike Redford getting really out of shape at the exit of Lesmo 2. But as we've seen in the Sylvia series and in the first 2 rounds of this series as well, these cars elect to box very, very early. That is Aaron Jackson. He's got his pits done. He is getting ready to exit he's already exited his box and is now back on the circuit. I do see in the YouTube chat that Aaron Jackson appears to have a little bit of a spin in Lesmo 1. I'm not sure if that happened last lap, but maybe he needed a bit of a mental reset in order to get back out into the race. But there it is. I was gonna say Les Stevenson. He does the Stevenson special, which is taking that big undercut. These cars are required a pit stop, whether or not they actually need it. They required a liter of fuel and also 4 tires, which is a new thing in this series. Event manager Kevin Moss hoping to maybe force a unique strategies between drivers. Maybe people electing to not just immediately box at the start of the race. And speaking of event manager Kevin Boss, he is under pressure. Neil Pimlott behind. He thinks about going defensive briefly, but knows that he has the lane covered, steps back through the second chicane, gets through cleanly, kicks up just a little bit of dust on exit, and now they enter Lesmo 1. Running actually a bit out of shape there. I'm noticing a little bit of wiggle from Kevin Boss's car. I think that's the nature of these GT2 cars. They're really only good in a straight line. They're at their absolute best there. And it's all about minimizing that time that you're spent in a corner. But Kevin Boss not really having the exit pace on Neil Pimlott behind. Pimlott, though, doesn't have to run into Ascari, hoping maybe to stick back behind. Definitely has a bit more mid-corner pace. Pimlott clattering over that inside curb and going towards Parabolica, hoping that toe might be enough to get alongside, might be enough to dive into the braking zone. Sees inching just ever closer, but not close enough. Goes very, very late on the brakes. Super deep, fortunately missing the rear of that other Audi, but that is, I think, a bit of a taste of the level of commitment that Pimlott is having in his car and the level of commitment he's willing to give in order to get past another car. But seemingly unfazed, already back, closing on the back of Kevin Boss as they enter turn 1 again. I must say, I'm impressed by the cleanliness of this race so far, Joseph. I'm always used to seeing, maybe not necessarily contact between cars, but a lot of drivers sort of going deep on the Lesmos, maybe running off circuit. We've only had a couple of little door bangs and one spin that we missed on the broadcast, but remarkably tamed first 10 minutes of this race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that you've said that, but I mean, yeah, it's not been too bad to kick us off here in Monza, and well, there's still a bit of racing to go. Will Stevenson, big gap up at the top of the field, if I can find my words. He's 1.9 ahead of Nico Kumpu, and he's found 3/10 over the previous sector time, so it's a big gap that he's eking out there as further down the field. This is going to be the fight for 12th place, or 11th place even. Lamar leads Satsara, leads Fasciuto, leads Meerman, and leads Redford, so it's a 5-car scrap for that 11th spot. And Joe Dorber not too far up the field as well, and well, it just looks as though they're ready to attack every single one of them. So it's just waiting for one of them to blink, basically, and then everybody else is going to come through. Lamar has eked out an 8/10 gap over the previous little segments and over the previous little sector. Fasciuto in behind Satsara is going to be wanting to make that move soon, and Mike Redford he's going for all the alternate lines. He wants to get the exit on Meerman, and he might have done so. He just braked a little bit early into the final corner, managed to get the switch back, and is he's pulled alongside. Meerman is going to be on the outside line now as Redford steps into the slipstream of Fisciuto, and we might be getting a little 3 wide. We look like we might have been towards the start of the straight, but towards the end of the straight, it's the drivers that have gone for the more ballsy setups that remain ahead, and Mike Redford has gone for a more cornering setup. This allows him to brake later, to pull alongside, and maybe pull ahead of Meerman. Who's going to get the better exit? It's going to be a little bit of a taking of curb for Mike Redford, which means that Meerman is going to stay ahead. The number 95 remains in the fight, and he tries to keep a wheel in, but he's not able to do so for so long, and now they come out to the exit into the second chicane on the circuit. Late lunge from Mike Redford. He's sent it here at Monza, and he's made the move. Is he going to be able to seal it on the exit, or is Meerman going to come back? The number 15 tries it, but too much gravel taken, and he's going to have to remain behind. Redford seals the position into the first Lesmo, and, well, clean, hard, and fair.
Clean, hard, and fair indeed. Loving this level of racing and the difference in setups and where cars are quicker than others. It's clear that Mike Redford is running a bit more downforce than his competitors, or just has that greater level of confidence. But no, I mean, already electing to break the toe just a little bit behind Richard Meerman. He knows that 15 car has a bit more pace in a straight line, but Mike Redford stamping it in, sealing that move into the second chicane. Meerman going real wide on the exit, taking all of the exit he can, and obviously gave a much better run coming down the straight. Redford going defensive, and it doesn't seem that Meerman has it done on the brakes. Doesn't have the level of confidence that Redford seems to have, but we're going to see as we come back down the straight. Redford with that interesting inside line, staying out of the toe of, or keeping out of the toe for Meerman as long as he can. Meerman jumping back in. I think Redford's going to have to go defensive early if he wants to. He elects not to, maybe thinking he can brake later. He does brake just a bit later, just enough to stay ahead of Meerman. He's got the edge in the corners here, but we'll see the 15 car coming out again of another corner exit, just having the significantly greater top speed, significantly greater acceleration, it seems. Meerman and Redford too wide going into the second chicane. Meerman's ahead at the braking zone, but Redford just getting it perfectly on the brakes, closing the door just when he had room to do so. This is the definition of a cat and mouse fight between two cars that have strengths and weaknesses in two different parts of the circuit. As we're seeing a couple more cars electing to take their stops early. Sassar is currently in the pits, but what we're glued to now on circuit is the 13 and, or sorry, not the 13, the 15 and the 95 going absolutely at it. Corner after corner. Redford going a little bit deep into Ascari, manages to keep that run fairly well. There Meerman goes wide again of that exit, using all the circuit. I honestly I don't even know if that's legal in ACC, but if he's doing it lap after lap, hopefully he's not getting those track limits and forcing another DT. But Redford keeping that narrow line yet again. It's clearly working out extremely well, as just behind Hugo Duby actually gets on the inside of Meerman. It seems that the 15 car is getting forced off his line to a degree and getting slowed to a degree that it's brought Hugo Duby back into the fight. As we'll see, Meerman not really staying in the toe. Hopefully he's trying to stick out, stay in the wing mirrors just a little bit, force a mistake from the driver of the 721 car. As we go quickly to Les Stevenson. I believe that is Pimlott just ahead. That is Pimlott. They came out of the pits. They must have come out of the pits right at the same time. And now they're going wheel to wheel. This is the back marker field. And usually the idea is you would box into clear air so you can have get as much lap time as you have the pace to do, but it's not working well for Les, as he's got a clear Pimlott to chase after the rest of the pack. Pimlott electing actually to take the Redford line just a little bit. I think depending on your setup, that will determine which cornering, which line is quicker. Les Stevenson, I think, might be another driver who's not running zero wing, because he doesn't seem to have the pace of another car in the straight line, but he does have confidence on the brakes just a little bit later than Pimlott, but obviously that would have been a mighty multi-car gap to close. multi-car length gap to close to get alongside of Pimlott. But looking racy as we're back. Another fight between Lily Armstrong and Kevin Boss. This is a fight that's sort of been in the cards since lap 1. Boss getting ahead of Lily Armstrong early. Lily Armstrong actually electing to just box out of that fight, box into clear air, clear instead of, a box to overtake, if you will, as Ash Bibby singing about boxing. But Kevin Boss showing a lot of pace. I think he might be a bit more comfortable in these cars than he was in those GT4s in the early rounds. Currently in P8 and actually should be in P7, having overtaken Linus Johnson, who was in the pits. But it appears that that Pimlott has maybe cleared Stevenson just a bit. That gap now 7/10, but it is Monza, and we do have long straights. And as we see a beautiful replay of Dauber going up the inside of the of Kevin Boss there, Dauber still wasting no time to clear the middle pack of the field. A great move there into turn 1, as we see Meerman getting racy on the that's a little bit of a tap on the 15 car there, but this three-way fight is by no means over. But these cars pushing to the absolute limit. Greatness is being made here. Audi greatness is being made here at Monza, Joseph, and I think we are in for a treat for the next 22 minutes.
Certainly feels as though we are, and well, the pit window certainly feels open as well. Johnson, Armstrong, Stevenson, Pimlott, Sassara, and Jackson, of course, who pitted earlier on, are the drivers who've come in so far, and I'd imagine more are going to join those 5, as that's going to be wide out of the corner from Meerman, and Doobie not able to take advantage of it. He went into the gravel trap, but he's managed to hold on to 11th spots for the time being. Doobie is moving all around the field, and he's looking maybe to that inside, not quite. As well, Hugo Doobie staying in behind Meerman, who runs wide out of the final corner. It appears to be the preferred line, but when you're overtaking, somehow the inside line is magically faster. Hugo Doobie dives into the pit lane, so he's not going to be able to complete that move. He, Redford and Shipston all have come in on this lap, and well, it's about the halfway mark, so it's unsurprising that that is when they have decided to box. And Will Stevenson, well, when is he going to box in the lead of this one? I believe he's just come through and lapped his first car of the session, and that is going to play on his mind a little bit. It's going to be a bit difficult for him to think about that, really, because he's going to lose time, so he might want to pit and to get rid of these cars. At the same time, though, Jackson's got a big gap up to Sassara. About 7 seconds is what he's got. So Stevenson, I think, the lap cars might not play on his mind and on his strategy too much, as Redford and Doobie on their way out of the pit lane now, with Stevenson down towards the final corner. Nico Kumpu 2.8 behind him, so the gap, whilst it built up right at the very start, it seems to have sort of plateaued and stayed around the same. Nico Kumpu, I think, might be looking at an undercut some point soon. Undercut generally is powerful here around Monza, and Kumpu does pull the trigger and dives into the pit lane. The number 256 is also followed in by the number 69 of Andy Boardman, and well, they're both in to make their switch for the race, which promotes Thibaut Roskam onto the podium, will promote Joe Dauber from last to third on the standings, but of course he may well decide to come into the pits as well. He has not pitted just yet, as we're going to get a race replay. Neil Pimlott going to send it into the last corner. Of course he is. Is there going to be a bit of wheel banging between the two? Not quite. And in fact, I believe it's Pimlott on the outside line that's being overtaken. Indeed, it is. Les Stevenson continues the fight with Pimlott, but he's ended up behind. So Pimlott's going to... he's going to hold on to that position. What has happened to Stevenson here in the 46? He's on the outside. There's a bit of bumping into the first corner, and Stevenson is going to get squeezed wide. That may well be discussed by, of course, our post-race stewarding system, and there may well be a penalty impending later on in the session, or later on even in the evening, or later on in the week. You'll have to stick around to find out the results of this race, as, I mean, we'll see what happens on track, but if you want to stick around next week to see how the points are affected. Jackson on the inside line now of Mike Redford. Bit of bumping between the two, and it's actually cost Jackson more than it has Redford. Jackson stays on the circuit. Redford goes all out of shape, And, well, that was a move that maybe wasn't quite what he would have wanted, wasn't quite far enough ahead. And Mike Redford taking the racing line, and well, at the expense of Jackson, really, who does remain behind. Not sure if either of them got any damage, but Aaron Jackson's day not getting any better as we head on to what will be the 11th lap. Stevenson, Roskam, Dorber, Boss and Lamar still out now, still racing on. Kumpu, Borman, Fasciuto, the leader of those who have pitted, although Fasciuto is going to drop behind Shipson, and here comes Stevenson into the pit lane.
Yeah, he is. The pit stop times have been looking at them. They're about anywhere from 107, I think, is our quickest pit stop, to around 1:10. So that's how long, not how long they're stationary, but how long they are from post to post. As we see Joe Dauber coming through, electing not to pit, whether it's a strategy choice or just for bragging rights, because after all, he now can say he went from last to first in this race, as he is the last to stop. Maybe we'll lead a lap here and put it in the box, but he's still got more pace in that car, more time to climb up a couple of positions once he comes out of pit lane. As we see Nico Kumpu racing as fast as he can on this outlap to try to close the gap to Will Stevenson ahead. Stevenson still in pit lane. We haven't seen that P disappear. There it goes. He's now out of pit lane. He's back onto the circuit, but he is going a whole lot slower than Nico Kumpu. But I think he's going to certainly stay ahead. There is a little bit of an outlap tire warm-up phase, but in these cars around this circuit, it certainly won't be long, and it won't be worth enough time unless he makes a mistake for Nico Kumpu to take that back. But the good news is for Kumpu, that gap, I think, might have dropped just a little bit, if anything stayed just about stationary. So he didn't lose time with his undercut, but unfortunately for him, he didn't gain too much either, as now we see about 2.1 seconds between the two of them. But I think Kumpu is certainly charging on this lap. Is the gap dropping just a little bit as Will Stevenson does his tire warm-up. But also good news for Kumpu, he does stay ahead of Andy Boardman behind. Boardman and Kumpu has been a typical fight that I've seen in the ACC championships that I've stewarded in. The Kumpu sort of being on the back foot normally, but this race here at Monza, these GT2 cars, clearly he's enjoying it a bit better than Andy Boardman, as we're back to the fight between Neil Pimlott and Kevin Boss. This fight is not going to get any less intense between a lot of these cars. Lily Armstrong did seem to get through, whether that was on circuit or whether that was in pit lane, we're not 100% sure. But Pimlott is real quick. He's seeming to be running the absolute minimum wing. He's on that the bravery setup, as I'm going to refer to it from now on, of no wing, no TC, and absolute balls to the wall driving here around Monza. Steps out just a little bit into Kevin Boss's rear view mirrors, but isn't close enough. Pimlott taking that narrower line, Boss running it out wide. It is interesting to see how these GT2 cars would prefer that narrower line. It does make a bit of sense thinking about it, because it's all about limiting the time you're spending not in a straight line, limiting the amount of time you're in a corner. And as Pimlott just goes quite a bit deep in turn one there, he's certainly going to slow up and hand that position back to Kevin Boss. We don't look kindly upon off-track overtakes, so he's going to do it in as strategic of a manner. He lifts just a little bit into Curva Grande, but just enough that he can jump straight back into the slipstream for the chicane coming up. Pimlott seeming to have an extreme amount of pace compared to a lot of rivals in a straight line, but not having the confidence and the downforce to get it right in the corners. As now we're going back to Hugo Doobie and Mike Redford, who were fighting earlier on, and clearly after the pit cycle, they still have a battle, a war to wage. Mike Redford, I think, got his setup a bit wrong for today's race, but it is allowing us in the box to get some epic battling, some real cat and mouse fights, as one car dives up the inside of a corner, and Redford, with the greater downforce, is able to keep it around. I think maybe we'll be seeing more of that between these two drivers. But Redford trying to shorten his line on the back straight as much as he possibly can, limit the time. Redford, interestingly enough, though these cars are all about limiting the time you're spent in corners, I think Redford wants to get to the corner as fast as he possibly can, as Doobie behind, taking all of the curves, but getting a little bit out of shape, robbing himself of a little bit of exit speed. I think Redford's going to survive another corner, but Doobie looking large in the mirrors, looking a bit late on the brakes. There's that alternate line that Redford seems to be taking. It's doing extremely well for him in this race, but that gap that's now about 0.3 of a second is going to close down quite a bunch as the run down to turn one. As Joe Dauber still actually hasn't pit, as I'm looking at the top left of our screen. I say that he actually has just entered the box, so he's decided my time in the lead for now is certainly done. But Cambridge Lomar, we shall see if he boxes as well. He actually led a lap last week as well, deciding to pit near the very end of the race, and it seems like that's going to be the strategy call for him again this week, as Pimlott still big in the mirrors with Kevin Boss. Kevin doing all he needs to do to keep that car behind, but is he doing too much, and is he losing lap time to the cars ahead? Pimlott flying through Ascari, getting a better exit than Kevin Boss, as I can see already. But I think took maybe a bit too much of that exit curve, maybe got a bit loose in the rear, because he seemed to lose some of that mid-corner pace he had. You can see the toe bring him closer and closer to Kevin Boss. They both, I'm sure, are going to elect to take that narrow line. Boss knowing that it is not only the quicker way through the corner, but it's the safer way. Is leading any car that needs to overtake would need to do it around the outside. Just, I'm sure you've seen in your time quite a few moves in Monza, and I think the only thing we're lacking so far in this race is an overtake around the outside of Parabol.
Drivers have been ballsy enough to make that move yet, but of course the rebound racing cars, they're the ones most expected to be ballsy, but of course at the same time they don't quite have the setup to be around the outside into Parabolica. That does seem to be the only thing missing from the race. Dauber's out in 8th place. He's going to be in behind Johnson and really trying to pressure. Then he's got Tom Shipston 2.3 seconds up the grid in that 6th spot. And I think that he's already going to be trying to make sure he ekes out that gap as much as he can, because he's already going to be thinking about Joe Dauber. He came in to the pits from the lead, don't forget. So that's going to be something that plays on the cars. That's going to be something that plays on the car's ahead's mind. It's going to be the fact that he is going to be quick at this point. He's going to have had a splash and dash towards the end of the race. Of course, he's picked up some tyres as well, but he's going to be the lightest of all of the cars, as they would have all probably prepared themselves for this point in the stint and prepared themselves for the rest of the stint. He is just ready to go from flat-out racing to flat-out racing. Lily Armstrong here is looking to race as well, right on the back of Joe Dauber here, and trying to actually be the antithesis of Joe Dauber's plan. Outside line then for the number 88. Joe Dauber moves across to give just about not enough space to pull alongside, and so remains ahead. The exit, though, is not going to be the greatest in the world for Dauber, and so this might be the opportunity Lily Armstrong was waiting for. Down the main straight, they're going to be side by side. Armstrong pulls alongside, but of course, the wings that we know they're running mean that they are able to stay ahead for the time being, that being Dauber, who just is able to stick ahead. But Lily Armstrong has now picked up that information and knows that it's going to be significantly slower in the corners. But for now, turn one isn't going to be the move, or isn't going to be the place that the move is made. Is it going to be some point later in the lap? Is it going to be the Lesmos? Is it going to be Parabolica? We will wait and see. But at the moment, it's just about setting up the move and finding the right time.
Absolutely. Right place, right time for a lot of these drivers, as we're on board with the current race leader, Cambridge Lamar, which, as we do know, is not our net race leader, has still yet to box, but adding a couple, lap lead tallies in the back of their head. There's nothing in the championship that would sort of that's worth doing that. But I know as a driver, for me, I would, step out of my sim at the end of the day and go, yeah, I could let a couple laps of that race. Clearly, I did pretty well. I was briefly the fastest person on track, but we'll see when Cameron Lamar elects to dive into the pits, as we're all running down. Only 8.5 minutes remaining in this race. Only 7 minutes remaining on the pit window, as Lamar does elect that this is the lap to go ahead and give the lead back to Will Stevenson, who has drove so far an absolutely epic race. Lights, green flag to the first 32 minutes, has just ran it faultlessly, kept the gap to Nico well over 2 seconds, went off on a blitz in the first bit of the race, but Kumpu clearly finding his footing at the mid-race point, already keeping that gap within 2.22 seconds. I think they're trading lap times. I'm looking last lap. It was about 2/10 between the two of them. The quickest race lap being with Will Stevenson, and that was a 46.5, and they did a 46.7 last lap. So still absolutely having the pace. Tires not being any amount of an issue for these drivers, as we see Tubit Roskam flying through the Lesmos, just keeping their eye in the rear view, knowing that maybe Shipston has just a little bit more pace, hoping that the mighty Joe Dauber gets held up enough, because based on how he was moving at the beginning of the race, I think 7 minutes is enough time for Dauber to catch P4. But while the racing has slowed down just a little bit, I'm gonna take a moment while I say as it's slowed down just a bit. But Kevin Moss has actually caught up to the back of Lily Armstrong. Hopefully nothing exciting happens for the next about 2 minutes. I'm just gonna shout out our wonderful partners that Joseph alluded to earlier in the race. Make sure they get the love they deserve, because they help us do what we do here. Ready, Set, Sim, a wonderful sim building partner. It's great. Their sim rig builder is great to see what whether it's your absolute dream build or the build you can afford. Their sim rig builder is great for that. And we're actually gonna bounce back between Richard Meerman and South Sara here. Meerman clearly getting a massive exit out of Ascari, just clearing that number 17 car. Easy peasy, getting it done. South Sara actually getting the better line through the Parabolica and coming right back at Richard Meerman. We shall see what happens down in turn one. Meerman electing not to go defensive at all on South Sara. South Sara just, it's between these two cars last corner, it almost is like they're lifting for one another. It's how it looks. As South Sara goes real deep into turn one, clatters over the curves, but fortunately stays out of the way of the incoming Meerman. Meerman being fortunate to not have to work too hard to re-overtake that car. But South Sara now dropping back into the clutches of Marco Fasciuto. Too wide through the Curva Grande as they're coming down to the second chicane. Fasciuto thinking, maybe I'll drop back behind. This isn't the corner for me. Fasciuto now being the car to go just a bit deep on the brakes, cutting that corner. Naturally going to have to lift to give that position back. But there's Jackson and Redford just behind. This fight is it's turned into just about a 5-way fight now as they're entering the Lesmos. Too wide just ahead between Jackson and Fasciuto. Redford getting a little bit of a tap in the rear from Hugo Duby, as we're 2 plus 2 wide heading down to Ascari. Aaron Jackson being the car, the leading of this 4 pair, keeping well to the inside, braking just not quite late enough. Marco Fasciuto jumping through initially. Redford is now dropped back as Fasciuto gets to be the next car to have the Doobie tap in the rear. Hugo Doobie looking racy and looking for opportunities, as Aaron Jackson is now looking to go go defensive on Marco Fasciuto. Another tap from Doobie to the rear, pushing Jackson offline, and now getting to get the run alongside Aaron Jackson down towards turn 1. It's going to be the last of the late breakers. It's going to be whoever can use their left pedal most effectively. It seems that Aaron Jackson has used just a little bit too late, runs super deep. Redford also going late, but keeping it within the corner as Jackson feeds back onto the track. And we'll see again, was looking really committed and hit that brake pedal and knew immediately that it was too late. Stays out of the way, takes out a couple of the chicane boards. Usually would go around them, not through them. But hey, it looks a little bit of confetti. Aaron Jackson going deep again. It's seeming to actually has pulled over on the side of the circuit. Interestingly enough, I'm wondering if there's maybe a pedal issue. It seems strange to go that deep twice in a row, hitting the braking marks successfully, but pulling off to the side maybe has a little bit of a technical issue to deal with. But this fight is still, it may not be 4 cars anymore, but it's still 3 cars. Doobie chasing Fasciuto and Redford looking angry in the mirrors of both of those cars, knowing that he has the pace through the mid-corner section, and it being behind the car having the ideal slipstream as Doobie takes a little bit more of the curb than Fasciuto, gets a really good exit. I think Hugo Doobie is one of the drivers that has gotten it right on the setup today. Marco Fasciuto going defensive into Parabolica. I'm still thinking, Joseph, I feel like we're gonna see it by the end of the race. Someone's gonna go around the outside of somebody else in Parabolica as these drivers are winding it up down towards turn 1.
There was a threat there as the bollard's been taken out by Cesara down the main straight, and Fasciuto is under pressure from Hugo, but well, he do be staying behind for the time being. And well, it looks like this is a fight that's going to continue. Mike Redford as well, ready to get into the fight. And well, whatever looked like it was costing Aaron Jackson is well, cost him his retirement from the race, and potentially we'll be seeing a little something later on to tell us a little bit about what's happened to Aaron Jackson. An unfortunate one there, because he was decently quick in this race, but unfortunately he became the first retirement. Kevin Boss is going to be looking for a move on Lily Armstrong. This is a ding-dong battle that's been going on, and it's the inside line for Ascari of all places, where he's going to try and go. Running over the curbing has allowed Lily Armstrong to come straight through, and well, the sausage curbing costing Kevin Boss time, but he still winds himself up for a move into Parabolica. And in the meantime, Neil Pimlock getting closer and closer in the background, so the pressure is ramping up on Boss in terms of needing to make a move here. They actually exited the last split 7 thousandths apart, so around the final corner, Boss breaks later somehow, gets good traction, and he will get the slipstream on Lily Armstrong down the main straight. Now this could be an opportunity for him to find his way through nice and easily. Is it going to be the outside line for the first corner? That is where he decides to go. That's where Lily Armstrong allows him to go as well, and they remain locked in battle towards the chicane. Who is going to come out on top? Boss covers across. Lily Armstrong with a late lunge to the outside line. Little bit of grass taken, but that's not cost the traction at all. And Boss, once again, finding that the curbs are his enemy, Lily Armstrong defends.
That was an excellent bit of reactionary racecraft there from Lily Armstrong. Boss thinking that clearly the inside was the better place to be, entering the corner as Boss trying to get alongside at the exit of Curva Grande, but Armstrong choosing to... Oh, Armstrong actually elects to go deep just a bit there. Gets a little bit too late on the brakes. Kevin Boss now on the run. Lily Armstrong will give that position back, but needs to be very, very careful because Pimlott is now joined the party, and it's going to be tough for Lily to give that position back without giving another position to Neil Pimlott. Pimlott going wide, using all the exit curb out of Lesmo 2, hoping to get a bit of a run. It's up to Armstrong to be decisive on when to give this position back up. Is electing to do it into the braking zone of Ascari. Well, just maybe, perhaps not, actually. We'll see. Maybe Armstrong thinking a post-race penalty is more ideal, but for the moment, it is Armstrong, Boss, Pimlott in this train of 3 cars, as you see Les Stevenson maybe hoping to close up to this fight, maybe get a little bit of joy. Maybe one car makes a mistake, maybe a couple of cars make a mistake and get a couple positions out of that, as actually we've gone down to the final lap of this race entirely. I completely missed that, but an epic fight towards the end as That was about the best possible way that Armstrong could have done that. That was a diabolical way to give that position right at the end of the line. Only loses the one position to Kevin Boss. A great, great, great bit of heads up driving, a great bit of strategic driving there from Lily Armstrong, as Richard Meerman is our next car to cross the line. We were so locked into that epic final fight that completely missed that was the final lap of the race. I still think these races should go on for 2 hours, because this has been another epic race, as we see Hugo Duby is next to cross the line, and the final car to cross the line for what has been another classic in the Audi Academy, an Italian classic. So Will Stevenson did it all in the race, was green flag to checker, led the race ahead of Nico Kumpu, who had an excellent performance around this circuit, did the better of Andy Boardman, bringing that championship fight a little bit closer between the two of them, and probably actually jumping Boardman in the standings. Thibaut Roskam is in P4, Tom Shipston P5, Linus Johnson a quiet race. I don't believe we saw them really at all during this broadcast, but a great result nonetheless with P6. Joe Dauber, he came from P18 and ended up in P7. Kevin Boss getting that 8th position back from Lily Armstrong at the very final moment. Lily Armstrong in P9 with something that I will probably remember. That will be a highlight of the series for just last lap moments. The gap between the two of them being about half a tenth. Pimlott hoping to get a couple more positions on that last lap as well, but can't do better than P10. Les Stevenson, P11, a much quieter race without Will to keep him company. Those two with their epic battles in the first 2 rounds. Richard Meerman, P12, Marco Fasciuto, P13, Kimbridge Lamar. He may have led a couple of laps briefly, but after that pit stop, dropped back to P14. Marion Sathsara, P15, Hugo Duby in P16, and Mike Redford, the last to cross the line in P17, with Aaron Jackson having that retirement, maybe a bit of a technical issue. I'm sure we will hear about that at some point.
Yeah, I think we will. We'll get the chance to speak to. Well, we'll get a chance to speak to a few of the drivers, and why not start off with the man who ended up taking the victory here today, and well, in emphatic fashion, pretty much. Will, do you want to talk us through that race from your perspective?
Yeah, pretty happy with that. Pole, fastest lap and win. I think that's the first win I properly had in about 2 years. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Just pace was really, really good, really consistent. Yeah, really happy with that.
Happiness is clearly what's on your mind, but a much quieter race than we've seen from you in the first 2 rounds. I was alluding to that during the broadcast, that without less to keep you company, you guys both had a pretty quiet race. You getting obviously the race win, green flag to checkered flag, which is a mighty impressive feat. Did you get along really well with the GT2 car today? I mean, clearly. Uh, clearly you liked it enough to win in it, but did you just how did it feel to drive versus those GT4s last week?
It's really twitchy on the front end, which I quite like. You have to be really, really smooth with the driving style, and that clearly just worked for me today. Um, yeah, it like I said, the pace was super consistent. I was pretty much in the 46s every lap, which yeah, really happy with. But it's nice to have somewhat of a quiet race for once. But yeah, obviously really happy with the actual race win.
Well, big congratulations on the win. Joseph, any final words for our winner today?
I mean, of course, we've got a few more rounds to go of the season. We're about halfway through, but I mean, we've got to go in the season. Red Bull, Silverstone, well, the Red Bull Ring, even Silverstone and Kyalami. Which one of those are you most excited for? And do you think you're going to be able to come out victorious after the last 3?
Well, I think Red Bull Ring, definitely. If at the pace was anything to go by today, hopefully the car should feel just as good there. Haven't driven GT3s for probably a while, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But yeah, the Red Bull Ring should be good fun.
Definitely looking forward to that. I'm curious how these cars are going to look, where a little bit more downforce is required, a little bit more cornering is involved, but similar to Monza, big heavy braking zones, and a lot of cars actually struggling going a bit deep at the end of the race. So I'm just gonna say it next week. I won't be here, but I will certainly be watching along and expecting you to be running at the front. But anybody you want to shout out, of course, before we move on to our next interviewee?
As always, to you guys for the broadcast, the drivers who always make this happen, and yeah, good race.
Love it, love it. Well, hopefully you do the right amount of prep for next week so that you can run up front again. I believe we have Mr. Richard Meerman stepping up next. A good race, good solid-ish result, but most importantly, how did that car feel? We just heard how Will felt in his, but how did you feel behind the wheel of your Audi GT2?
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, that was a bit twitchy in the beginning. We've had quite a big scrap from the rear with Redford, Doobie, Fatuto, and yeah, that was pretty good. Some great, some great fights as well. Managed to do a nice undercut as well through the pits, and yeah, I managed to grab P12, I think.
Yeah, it was very well done in the end, and well, the undercut sort of slingshotted you into a 5-car battle. And
Yeah.
just how did you navigate that one cleanly?
I've no idea. At some point, Doobie and Redford made a mistake through coming out of Ascari, and I managed to slip right through. And yeah, that was luck. Yeah.
I would argue clearly that wasn't all luck. There was definitely a lot of skill involved to navigate that. I can't remember, but I believe you were one of the cars to receive a doobie tap, as I started calling him. He seemed to be
Yeah.
real racy on the rear of cars, and
Yeah. Going into the first chicane, indeed. Yeah.
Yes.
But I managed to save it, and no harm done.
Yeah, great. I mean, great racing. Top moment of the race, certainly. It was 2x2 wide going into Ascari briefly, and I mean, big props on navigating that. Was that if you had your personal favorite moment of the race? Would it be that, or was there something else that went on that was, that stood out for you?
I think it was that, actually. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Everybody kept it clean as well, so great racing, everybody involved.
The Audi Academy clearly becoming a bit of a classic for drivers. You guys seem to enjoy the level of racing that you're getting, but any shout outs post race?
I think my buddy Doobie, Hugo Doobie, also Fatuto for keeping it clean in the beginning as well. Obviously, the podium, very well done. Congratulations. And everybody at RCI, of course, and you guys from the commentary box. Thank you very much.
Of course, well, thank you very much to you as well. And well, I mean, great racing today, and it ended up being very, very successful. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll go straight from one and to another. Kevin Boss is in and ready for a chat. I mean, you've mentioned in the chat that there was pretty much no moments to rest. There was no moments really to settle down. It was carnage from start to finish. How would you sum it up?
Yeah, basically that. It wasn't really carnage for me. Like, I had one little tap with Aaron Jackson, but I don't think that did anything to either of our race. But yeah, for most of that race, I was in a fight with either with Neil or with at the end with Grim. So yeah, that was insane. I think I might have had 2 or 3 laps of clean air, and for the rest, I was constantly in a battle.
Yeah, the fight with Lily Armstrong right in that final lap was one of my favorite moments of the race. Were you for that final 3/4 of the lap just sort of screaming to yourself of like, "Hey, give back the position. You went off track. Give back the position." And were you surprised that it happened where it did, or did you think that that was inevitable?
Um, no, because when he went off, yeah, like I barely made the corner myself. So when he stayed behind, I was fine with that because we were both pushing it to the limit, and I think the way we were both going into the corner, like we would never go in side by side. So at that point, it was fine. I did not expect the sudden lift at the end, um, which got me P8. But yeah, that was some battle because usually I don't fight the likes of Armstrong or Dorber as well for a while. So yeah, that was yeah pretty good from my end.
Yeah, very well done. And before we go, have you got anybody you'd like to thank?
Oh, you guys, of course, always for doing the broadcast and all the drivers for actually attending. Because without everyone being there, there is no race. And also thank you to Les Stevenson and Neil Pimlott for being in the chat because it's always more fun when you're talking to people.
Yeah,
It's always sorry, Joseph. Please go ahead.
well, it's always very, very good to have a little bit of action here around Monza, and well, that's certainly what was delivered. And one of the men who was in the thick of it, we just spoke a minute ago to one of the men, Richard Mearman, in that fight, and another one is here to speak to us. Mike, do you want to talk me through the race from your perspective?
Very painful in every sense. No, I not had much practice, so I just scrounged together a setup pretty quick. But I obviously I'm gonna guess that I've probably ran the most wing of anyone today. So made that mistake. So downside of not driving around the other drivers while practicing, I guess. But no, I was able to keep in the fight, I guess, for the most part. But whenever I caught up to a pack of cars, I just kind of had to sit at the back and wait for the scraps until we got to the braking zone. Not really much I could do.
Yeah, it was really great to watch some of your battles because we sorted out pretty early that the setup was probably not on your side, but it was such good sort of cat and mouse fights of you sort of absolutely having so much more pace mid corner than
Yeah,
any car around you. But right when you would exit the corner, you'd always narrow that line as much as you can. So your lines through Parabolica, they did you every favor in the book. You were so much quicker than probably any other car through that corner.
to be fair, that's my usual line through Parabolica in most cars, to be honest. I don't really know why. It's how I've always taken it. But I was noticing that it was helping. Yeah, there was a one moment, I think, when I think it was like 14 or something through the second phase of the race. I just managed to get in clean air and went like half a second quicker than my previous best. So then I had a new yardstick to kind of get moving forward, and I was gaining on the back of Jackson for a while, and he was gaining on the group ahead. But then once we got into that group, I don't think I've ever had a race where I've had so many collisions and made so many mistakes without it being race ending. So, which is, I guess, a positive. But yeah, I'd like to be a bit further forward in the order. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I mean it was one of those races, I think, and I mean looking forward to next week and over the next few weeks. Are you hoping to be a bit further up?
I'd hope so. Actually, the first the first kind of team race I've won in GT3s and ACC was in the Audi. So there's that, at least. It's probably one of the only times I've actually driven it in a race. So we'll see. Hopefully it could be some kind of good luck charm, the GT3 Audi. I might have to use the same livery as we did that race. That'd be fun.
I think you should. I think that'd be great. But obviously we have one more GT2 outing before those GT3s get brought out of the stable. So hopefully,
we?
you know,
I
you
forgot.
know, yeah, Red Bull Ring. You got one more
Oh.
opportunity to maybe show a bit more pace, maybe a bit more success than
Oh,
you did
great,
at
wonderful.
Monza. Well, at least we got one guy who's real excited about next week.
I might just use the same setup as today with all those heavy braking zones. See what happens.
You know, that actually sounds like a pretty sound strategy to me. I mean, you clearly you were driving the wheels off of that car. It's just you were a bit hampered by your rear wing. So I think around the Red Bull Ring that might do well. But I'll look forward to seeing that, or we'll look forward to seeing that next week. But of course, anybody you want to shout out before you head out?
Thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast as usual. Wouldn't happen without you, and it's always great. It is always great to watch the races back and see what was happening. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much then, Mike. And that is going to round us off for this evening. I mean, it was a very, very good evening of action. Jack, how would you sum it up?
Another classic, another Audi Academy classic. I mean, these races have delivered 3 weeks in a row. I'd say it was the slowest start in round one. It wasn't quite as exciting as round two and round three, but still a lot of wonderful action. Right down to the checkered flag. Enough action that I didn't even realize the race was over. But what do you think, Joseph? How do you feel about your first outing in the comms booth in this championship? Did you enjoy yourself? Are you glad you came today?
Great to be back, and very much looking forward to the next few rounds. I'm with you for the next 2 weeks, I believe. So I mean, it'll be good to see. And don't forget as well, we've got all the championships running over the next couple of weeks, and well, we're going to be very, very busy here at RCI, and we're going to include the Alpine Championship, the Alpine Sim Racing, the Alpine Sim Racing Series, brought to you by Track Racer. That's going to be coming up over the next few weeks. Of course, at the moment we have the Audi Academy running. We're halfway through that season on the Mondays. Then we've got a load of championships that are currently active. Of course, we've got the Wednesday Championship, the Prototype Sprint Series. We've got the Multi-Sprint. We're into season 3 of that, and well, I mean, we've got so much to be excited for, so much to keep an eye out on here on RCI TV, and of course, you can get yourself involved by going to racerci.com and just signing yourself up for some of the championships. When, well, we'll be seeing you out on the track maybe very shortly.
I certainly hope so. Up next, we do have the as Joseph said, we have the Prototype Sprint Series that begins on Wednesday. Please sign up if you're interested. It will be hopefully a great series, and we've got plenty of slots for that. And I know that I will be commentating on some of those rounds, and I would love it if we had a nice, big, chunky grid. So if you're interested in driving an LMP2 or an LMP3 car in LMU, sign up, come down, have fun, enjoy some wonderful on-track action. And also, before we go, a massive shout out to our partners. They keep us sane, they keep us going, they help us do what we do here at RCI. Completely was unable to give them the props they deserved during the race. There was just straight up too much action, but can't say that's too bad of a thing. But Ready Set Sim is I was able to talk about them. They got an unfair advantage before the racing started getting good again. But Ready Set Sim, as we talked about, wonderful for for sim rig building. If you're interested in that, their sim rig builder, we do have links in the description. Whether you want to build your dream rig or the rig that you can more reasonably afford, Ready Set Sim can do that for you. Coach Dave Delta, if once you got that sim, if you want to start climbing the leaderboard, start getting quick, their tools and coaching can help you climb their sim racing ladder. Information about them, as well as all of our partners, is in the description. We have Green Man Gaming for the great savings on all sorts of PC titles, whether that's sim titles, sim racing titles, or any games at all. They have you covered. Moza Racing, I am a big fan of Moza. I actually run one of their wheels, and it was one of the most reasonable ways to get into direct drive, and they're wonderful for high level and extremely well priced sim gear, not just for racing, but they've got some trucking gear as well as some flight sim gear as well. We have Pimax, who is our VR partner here. They have a incredible range of VR headsets and an upcoming 12K headset, which is truly absurd. And if you would like to score a little bit of discount, we have information in the link below. And the final special thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended esports community. It is an honor to be among their list, and an honor to have joined all of you today for another round of the Audi Academy. That brings round 3 to a close. We hope to see a lot of you next week for this championship, and we hope to see a lot of you on Wednesday, which hopefully we will be able to broadcast. Things are still being sorted out, but if that does happen, I will be here to join you then. And of course, we have our Fridays as well. I've been Jack Mays, joined by Joseph Black, and Ash Bibi has ran the show for us, kept us all in line, made sure that nothing broke, and that we got to see all the beautiful and amazing racing action. And I think he did a good job. He tends to do a good job, but I think he did a good job today. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully we will see you all soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights.